Welcome to Escaping Normal's debut podcast. I've got a very, very special guest here with me this morning. Angus Maxfield, the founder of Jumeirah Johns, Dubai's fastest growing fitness communities. And if you are in the running community, you have 1000% heard of them. Welcome to the podcast, buddy. So awesome to have you here.
Thanks so much, mate. Excited to be here. Cheers.
Amazing. And so first podcast for me, first podcast for you.
Yeah, man. Excited, nervous, ready to get into it. But yeah, excited to talk to you today.
Amazing. So Dubai, let's maybe just sort of start there. You know, why don't you just maybe give us a little bit of context? Tell us a little bit about sort of Angus and your experience here in Dubai before we sort of dive into a little bit more about Jumeirah Johns.
Yeah, sweet. So I've actually been in the region a long time. So I was born in Saudi Arabia, moved to Dubai when I was like 5 years old, did all my schooling through here, moved away for a few years for some university and ended up moving back. So yeah, I think it's a pretty fun place to be. I think you'd agree. You know, there's a great kind of balance of fitness, going out, socializing. There's a whole lot to do. It's super fun. And yeah, that's kind of where our community was founded because there's a lot of people who are looking for that kind of stuff over here.
Amazing. So what sort of originally brought you to sort of Saudi Arabia? You know, so many sort of years ago, it wasn't the place that it kind of like is today, you know? So what sort of brought you here in the first place?
Yeah, so my parents' jobs. So my dad was working for an FMCG company at the time and he was like moving around. He'd done some time in Turkey and then had ended up moving to Saudi Arabia and then through Dubai. So yeah, just luckily enough, you know, I think got the roll of the dice on that one and ended up growing up in Saudi, which was, like you say, a different place, but like also growing up in Jeddah was really cool. You know, we lived on a compound. There's a skate park on the compound. We went to the beach, to the desert every weekend. Like it was a really cool place to be and a cool place to grow up.
Yeah, I could imagine. I think it's hard for us to even think what it was probably sort of like, you know, living up and growing in Saudi Arabia. I think it's even completely different now to sort of how it was, 20 odd years ago.
100%.
You know? So you said you went to sort of school in there. What was sort of that like? You know, was it full of like international or a lot of locals? How was that?
Yeah, so similar to any schools in Dubai, you know, they're international schools. So I went to an international school. It was really great. Obviously, I was quite young, so I don't really remember the ins and outs of it so much. But, you know, my older siblings definitely would. And like it was a cool place to grow up. Like you're surrounded, and because you have this expatriate community over there, they kind of form close circles, and you know they're really strongly bonded through that, being away from home, being separated from their families or their extended families. So yeah, it was a cool place to be. You know, the weather's great. It's obviously not like it is now. Like Saudi's growing at such a crazy scale with all these giga projects and various things going on there. So I'm assuming I've only been back to Riyadh and Alula recently. I haven't been back to Jeddah, but I'm assuming it's on a similar kind of trajectory.
So in these compounds, were you sort of able to drink and stuff like that, or was it very sort of
it was
strict?
Saudi laws, same as you know, within these compounds, same laws apply to elsewhere. So I mean, I don't know what all the adults were doing. I was 5, so I was pretty off the beers at that point. But no, I'm not sure what they got up to. But mate, it was the same Saudi law. So like, I think what has changed is that when you were a woman, for example, you're expected to wear an abaya. You know, even as a kid almost. So my sister was wearing abayas when she was young and things like that. So I think some of that has changed, but no, it was always respecting kind of Saudi culture. And then obviously moving to Dubai at a young age as well. That was one thing that, you know, I've seen change at scale and really rapidly. But yeah, one of the cool things about growing up in Dubai is that you become so accustomed to the local Emirati culture. And you almost like, you always want to protect that at heart because it's such a cool culture. 100%. And a lot of expatriates, I think, come over now without really understanding the culture of the Emiratis, which is beautiful. It's really cool. And they might not like acknowledge it or fully dive into it. And I think that's kind of a waste. But because I grew up alongside that, you know, it's almost inherent. Like you see, I've got Emirati friends and they're really cool people and their culture is awesome as well.
Amazing. So have you always been sort of involved in fitness? Was there quite a big sort of fitness community sort of growing up in Saudi, Dubai?
Yeah, hugely. Like for me, it was sport mad. I'm sure you can relate, you know, just playing everything. So like, I played football, rugby predominantly. Rugby was my main sport, athletics, water polo, every action sport under the sun. I skated, snowboarded, surfed, you know, like I learned to surf in Dubai, which is sick. Like not many people would imagine that be possible, but yeah, there's there's a great surf community in Dubai. So yeah, man, every bit of sport. So I guess with those different sports comes those different communities, right?
100%.
The rugby community growing up here was sick, like full of Australians, South Africans, Kiwis, English, Welsh, like everyone from all over the world coming and like sharing the love for this sport, growing up playing it. And yeah, so that was weekends basically, playing sport, 2 tournaments a weekend, every weekend up until I was like 18, which is sweet.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So you said rugby was your one, yeah?
Yeah. Rugby. I played rugby up until a couple years ago. I still dip into it. Like we're playing in the sevens this year and stuff like that. And I played, but that was my main sport up until kind of 2 years ago. Yeah.
What position?
I was a 10 or a 9, bit of a utility back, but 10 or 9. Yeah. How about you? What about you? What sports do you play?
So I was always into athletics.
Yeah.
That was mine. I was always a really small, scrawny kid, you know, but I went to a really sort of like renowned sports school back in South Africa. So I played also every single sport sort of under the sun. I did your water polos, athletics, rugby, cricket, sort of you name it. But it was always sort of athletics, particularly sort of like the 800 meters.
Oh, tough.
That was tough. I was also a bit of a cross country runner. Never really enjoyed the cross country, but 800 meters was always something that really kind of like got me going. Do you ever do athletics?
Yeah, I ran a bit of 800, bit of 400. Not like incredibly by any means, but I can relate, man. It's a hard one to race, you know? I think like the 800 is just a sprint these days, which is crazy. Like,
and I'll never forget the burn in the hamstrings right at the end. It was absolute killer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that was sort of my kind of like, so I've always been into sort of running, and that was sort of one of the first things, you know. I was living in South Africa, then I moved to the UK. I was sort of running over there, and that was when I first moved to Dubai, and I didn't really know anyone. I was like, okay, cool. Where can I go to sort of meet people?
Yeah.
And for me, the running communities throughout my life have always been the best. I was always doing sort of like park runs.
Yeah.
And I just loved the running community. So that was my sort of first kind of place where I thought, cool, I'm going to go meet sort of like-minded people and sort of grow my network here in Dubai.
Yeah.
And that was where I actually came across Jumeirah Johns.
Yeah.
You know? So why don't you tell me a little bit sort of about that? Obviously you said sort of rugby was your primary sort of like sport.
Yeah.
How did you sort of like, why Jumeirah Johns?
Well, like touching on what you said, when you move to a new place, right?
Yeah.
Like you're always searching for like a community to join, or, you know, like-minded individuals. When I moved back to Dubai, having moved to the UK and stuff, all of my mates were living in London, Australia, New York, like wherever they've moved to after their kind of university days. So I moved back to like a really familiar city with like none of my like close mates around me.
Yeah.
And like, what are you going to do naturally? You're going to try and look for those like-minded individuals. So I joined a rugby club. I joined the Jebel Ali Dragons, like great rugby club, huge social community, as well as being like a really good standard club. So they play in the Premiership over here. There's a fairly good standard of rugby over here as well. Like a lot of people might be ex-pros, ex-semi-pros, come over here to like get a career and want to play a bit of rugby on the side, you know? So yeah, I joined the Dragons and they gave me that kind of community that I was looking for when I moved back. Immediately, you have 40 mates, you know, you're going to training 3 times a week, you're seeing them on the weekends. It was like a really simple way to socialize, having come back and being like, oh, like none of my mates are actually really here. So it was nice to get like into one of those communities. And so, yeah, like I said, I played rugby and then I was kind of coming to the end of it, you know, like with work and stuff. It was just a bit too busy trying to get down to training and stuff. So I was looking to transition into a new sport, try something new. And I'd seen someone come and finish the 70.3 Ironman in Dubai. I'd watched them come over the finish line, like being involved in that kind of like infectious energy, you know, like all of these people coming over, accomplishing something they've been training for months and months for. And I was like, yeah, that's it. Like, that's what I want to do next. So pretty much with anything I do, like I try and dive head over heels into it. Like I don't do things in half measures. So I was like, right, let's figure this out. How do I do it? Do I get a coach? Do I train myself? So I'd never really done any distance running before.
Yeah.
Only really done fitness stuff within the rugby space. So like made tons of mistakes going into running, you know, was doing stupid junk miles every time I was going out, all that kind of stuff that you'd expect every beginner to make. But anyway, through this journey, I was like gone from playing a team sport where you have 40 mates around you every week to going into something like really individualistic. And that was like, okay, I'm missing something. So what I thought about, and I spoke to my friend Ryan, who's my co-founder with Jumeirah Johns, who'd come into running in his own regard as well through his own journey. And we both spoke about, it's like, okay, well, let's find a run club to join. Like that seems to be something that would make sense. We'll go join a run club.
Yeah.
And we couldn't really find one that was, hitting the nail on the head for us. Like there are some really good running communities in Dubai that existed at the time, but they either came with a price tag or they were super focused around training, and it wasn't really a huge social element to it.
Yeah.
So we always say Jumeirah Johns was formed out of necessity, right?
Because let me just stop you there.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to know this question, right?
Yeah.
Who's John? Who's John?
Yeah, fair. So look, to be honest, it was the name of a WhatsApp chat. So we named Jumeirah Johns through the WhatsApp group. We had 4 friends on this WhatsApp group who we started to go walking down Kite Beach, and we're like, hey, this is pretty nice. Maybe we'll go for a jog along Kite Beach in the mornings before works, right?
Nice.
So Jumeirah John is a play on a mildly offensive term, Jumeirah Jane, which is like slang for a suburban mum who lives in Jumeirah. Okay. So it's like a kind of play on words of that. Honestly, this WhatsApp group was just like, when you chuck 4 friends in a WhatsApp group, you don't care about the name. And it was because we were in Jumeirah walking down the beach. That was what it was called. It's for us to organize like our walks, which then turned into runs. So yeah, that's where Jumeirah Johns came from. That's the origin story. It's not a person. It's like kind of play on words of a Jumeirah Jane, which I don't think is that offensive, but maybe it is.
So I've heard. Is there a Jumeirah Jane's running community as well? I think I've seen it or not.
So yeah, Jumeirah Johns is just like, so we have a lot of events that we do which are kind of purely female focused. So we recently partnered with a brand called OvuSave, which is like a fertility clinic and things like that. So obviously when we have those women's days, it's an easy bit of branding to do Jumeirah Johns. It brings the women in the club together. And so when we have female, I guess you can refer to the female side of our community as Jumeirah Johns, males as Jumeirah Johns. We don't split it, but it's just the way it's kind of fallen. Yeah.
So you said you sort of started, how many of you sort of were in that sort of initial WhatsApp sort of group?
So there were 4 of us. And like I said, we were just trying to be a bit more healthy. We were all like working jobs, stressed, just not being at our healthiest, trying to figure out a way to get into being a bit more healthy. So we started walking down Kite Beach, going for a coffee, breakfast afterwards, going home, showering, getting to work.
And how long ago was this? This was?
Oh God, this was maybe almost 2 years ago. So not quite there. So kind of tailing the end of summer.
Got you.
We were starting to go down and walk and stuff like that. And then walking slowly turned to jogging for a couple of us. And then this is like, so it was coinciding with the time that I was trying to get into running. So it was just like a natural progression. It's like, look, I'm sick of my life. Like I'm working loads. I'm not being healthy. It was a really like, I don't know, I was just working loads at the time. So your fitness takes a backseat naturally, 100%. Right? And then this was the transition of how that kind of moved into fitness, becoming a bit more of a priority again, being healthy, getting outdoors in the morning, doing it with people that you really like. And it's like, okay, this is cool. This is fun. Let's dive into this a little bit.
So, I mean, because you saw like 2 years later, you now got almost 3,000 sort of community members. I come down every single Friday to down to your guys' community runs. Now, how in such a short space of time have you managed to build such a strong community? If you said it's just 4 of you guys just in the WhatsApp group, going down for runs, how have you guys managed to sort of scale that?
Yeah, so like, I guess it goes back to when we started it. So we were talking, going back and forth about starting it. We're like, that's embarrassing. No one's going to come. It's a stupid idea. All those kind of like various negative thoughts that come when you want to start something new. There's obviously barriers to entry to doing it, right?
Yeah. And
then at the end of the day, we're just like, I can't seem to find anything like it that we want to do here. Like there's no one's doing it here. It existed. Like it's not a novel concept by any means. Like you say, you joined run clubs, running communities in the UK.
Yeah.
We based ours off a run club in Australia. We actually had a chat with them before we started it, messaged them, had a call, talked about the kind of things we can expect, what to do right, what to do wrong, and all that kind of stuff. And they were super welcoming. So shout out Unfit Run Club in Australia, really great run club. And we had a call with them. They were super welcoming with all their advice. But yeah, it was just getting to that point where it's like, let's just give it a try.
Yeah.
And, we put it out there on social media, which is like almost the scariest thing to do, because as soon as you do it publicly, you're like welcoming all of the people, all of those thoughts in your head that's like, oh, this is stupid. What's he doing? Like, what are they starting here? And yeah, we did that. And for the first month was like, begging my friends to come down because I was so anxious that no one was going to come. And no one did come, dude. We had like 3 or 4 people down to like most runs the first time. I remember one run we tried to do on a Sunday. It was me and one other person that came down to the run. And I was like, man, what am I doing? And this was like 3 weeks in. So I was like, this is stupid. Like we should just stop this. But I think from there, we managed to create a bit of proof of concept. Like people were coming down. We're putting it on social media. You know, slowly 5 people was turning to 10 people. I remember getting my first 10 people run and being stoked, like being like, this is sick. Like 10 people want to come and do this.
Yeah.
And then your friends turn to their friends and turn to strangers. So I think we managed to form at the right time. Like there was a kind of need for it. And slowly but surely people started to recognize that we were hopefully like solving that problem or need, you know?
Because I heard last year some form of stat, like running was the most taken up sport in the world, or something like that.
Yeah.
Which I think is sort of true testament to how awesome the sport is, how awesome the community is. I think that's what's so powerful about running. And, you know, I've been involved in many different, I've done bodybuilding, I've done your high rocks, your CrossFit, but there's still something so special about the running community. Everyone there's, you know, it's not pretentious.
Yeah.
I think that's what I love so much about the running communities. Everyone is just there to be the best versions of themselves. Yeah. You know, people are waking up at 6 a.m. in the morning, going down there, you know, it's such a welcoming. Everyone's there to encourage everyone. It's not like no one's competing with each other. Everyone's competing with themselves. And I can really feel that in your guys' community.
Yeah, but also if you break it down to its core, right, all of those other things that you said you wanted to do, there's a price tag associated with it, right? 100%. A gym membership or a High Rocks, or there's another barrier to entry, right? In order to go into the gym, you know, you need to get up and drive there or whatever. Running, all you really need to do is step out the door. Like, so it is the least area of friction when it comes to fitness. It is the easiest way to get into it just because there are no steps to it. As long as you got a pair of shoes or you can go outside and run. So yeah, I think that from a sake of like, or how easy it is to get into it, that was one thing that I think is a big draw for people. Yeah.
So what advice would you give someone? So, you know, we've tried at my real estate company, BWC Real Estate, we try come down and tell everyone, listen, we're going down at 6:15 on a Friday, come join. It's probably only about 5 of us going. Now, what advice would you give to somebody that's sort of, you know, maybe a little bit apprehensive, never really kind of the position that you were in the beginning, you know, maybe I'm not going to be good enough for it. What advice would you give someone that's potentially looking at kind of starting their fitness journey and using running as that platform to do so?
Yeah, I mean, there's tons of bits of advice, but number one, I'd say join a community, and hopefully join a community similar to ours where it is really supportive. You know, it is an encouraging environment. There's no kind of people who are there going to be discouraging you or looking at you any differently to anyone that rocks up to that community. So number one, join a community. Number two, just get started. I mentioned to you earlier, when I started running, I made hundreds of mistakes. You know, I probably wasted 3 months of like progress just by doing things, you know, not really knowing or being knowledgeable about it. But you have to go through that. It's natural. Everyone who starts anything within fitness, within business, within any kind of parameter will make mistakes super early. So yeah, just give it a go. Don't go out and run hard every time. Learn to run easy. That was my problem. I was killing myself every 5K I was doing. And I was like, God, running sucks. Why do people like this? Like, this isn't fun. And then I think as soon as you learn to like run easy and actually like enjoy that, then you kind of get that's like, okay, this is cool. I can go out, run, have a chat, listen to a podcast, disconnect from work, you know, whatever bit running might be serving for you, just dive into that and double down, I'd say. Yeah.
Interesting. And, you know, I guess just as there's, you know, a lot of people looking at sort of going into sort of various fitness communities, there's obviously owners and brands looking at building, you know, their own sort of fitness communities. Now, what sort of advice would you sort of give sort of an owner sort of looking to kind of build their community, and being able to kind of like do it correctly and do it in a way which allows you to sort of scale?
Yeah. So Ryan and I, with Jumeirah Johns, we looked at like when we founded it, we were looking at joining other run clubs. They were intimidating, they were scary, and they were, you know, there was either a price element involved to it, right? Or like a sign up form or everything. We're both pretty competent athletes, and we thought to ourselves, God, if we're finding these intimidating, think about someone who's never kind of run before or do anything like that. So when we looked at our customer journey of like someone who might come to a run club, what we thought about is how do we make it as easy as possible for that person who has never run before, is intimidated of running, is scared of the community, of all of these things. How do we make it as easy, as seamless, as frictionless for them to come in? Remove as many barriers to entry as we can for them, for that lower like person who, I'm not saying lower person, sorry, for that person who has never got involved with running or fitness or whatever. And if we make it as easy as possible for them, then all of the kind of low hanging fruit will come anyway, because it'll be so easy for them, right? So we thought, okay, if I've never run before, I'm scared, I don't want to do this, let's put out some content to make sure that they know it's an encouraging environment. If oh, I can't be arsed with the hassle. I don't want to sign up to a form. Great, no forms. You don't even have to commit to coming. Here's the information. Turn up if you want to, Okay, 6:15, that's early time for me. I won't be able to get into work. Don't worry, we've partnered with a cafe that has a shower so you can get ready and go into work. So all of these kind of things we try to figure out to make sure that it's like, okay, the easiest way to build the community is to think about the person who's least likely and most reluctant to come. How do we get them in? Because all the other people will fall naturally.
Actually, I love that piece of advice, because I think that's the biggest problem, is those barrier to entries. All someone needs is the tiniest little excuse not to do something, and they can justify why they're not going to do that. And if you can remove as much of that as possible, then you're opening up the floodgates, because then you're able to tap into the market of the people that maybe are less committed and need those barriers removed. But then it's not like you're now excluding the people that are, dedicated and committed, because they would naturally just get over any barriers, but you're allowing everyone to come together and sort of like build from that.
Yeah, 100%. And that's like, when we started the club, Jumeirah Johns Run Club, the mission was to be like Dubai's most social run club. And we wanted to get people into running. Like that was our goal. We wanted to, because that's what we were doing, We weren't the great runners, we still aren't, There are way more good runners at the club than me.
Yeah.
But we wanted to get the people who come in and say like, hey, I've never run a kilometer before and I did it today. Like that's cool. And we get that week in, week out. And that's the coolest thing about the club, I think, is that we formed this because we targeted the people who like probably were really shy and didn't want to join the club, and they've managed to kind of find their community through it, which I think is cool.
Yeah. No, I absolutely love that. But I mean, you sort of said, obviously there's no sort of barriers to entry, which means, no one's paying a fee to join you guys. It's completely free.
Yeah.
Now, what are you guys doing? Because at the end of the day, Jumeirah Johns is a brand, a business. Where are you guys taking it? How are you guys looking? Maybe what do you have now in place to be able to monetize that? What's your plans for the future? How are you looking to sort of like now scale Jumeirah Johns just from this sort of social free community into a brand which can still offer huge amounts of value, but allows you to bring in some additional revenue to kind of launch your guys' self into sort of that next space?
Yeah, 100%. So when we were looking at it, we have always had the mantra of we never want to monetize at the expense of the people who come to the club.
Okay.
So everyone comes to us like, oh man, you could make so much money, just charge like a small membership fee or whatever. Like people would pay X amount a year, no problem about it. You do it. But again, that's friction, right? And if I want to encourage the person who's struggling to get into fitness to come in, I don't want to put an additional layer of friction on them. So we've held back on kind of trying to monetize the club in a way, because of the fact that we don't want it to be at the expense of the people who run. So now we're actually entering a really interesting phase, and we got some really cool things on the horizon. We're hoping to develop a pretty robust partnership program where we have a lot of different commercial partners, sponsors, brands who we want to work with first and foremost, and then brands who can offer us some things to help us grow this community, develop some of the events, the events and concepts which we have in the pipeline. And there's another kind of really exciting thing on the back burner, which Ryan's heading up, and it's really sick. And I can't say anything more about it. I can't say anything more about it, but within a year, if everything goes to plan, there's going to be something really cool, which I'm going to be super proud to be a part of, and Jumeirah Johns to kind of like lead the way on it. Yeah.
Oh, that's super, super exciting.
Yeah.
Can't wait to sort of see how that goes.
Yeah.
But I've seen you guys have been doing sort of lots of sort of collaborative efforts, sort of like Gym Skin. I saw you did that. Fit, we sometimes line outside.
Yeah.
Be Fit. So awesome that you guys are sort of getting as many sort of collaborative partners involved as possible. Also allows you to sort of like grow and sort of like scale the brand from that side.
100%. And when we looked at our partnerships, one of the things that we wanted to do, which Unfit did really well, so taking it from then, because Unfit Run Club in Australia started in COVID as a mechanism to support local business. So they wanted to help the cafes and coffee shops which were closed, right? So one of their pillars is support local business. Yes. And we were like, okay, well, let's do that too. Let's look at ways where we can partner with people who are local businesses who we want to support just because we believe in their story. So if you look at like Surf House and Single Fin, they're a local business that have existed for time in Dubai. So I grew up, you know, Dan and Scott, who own the surf house, Dan gave me my first ever surf lesson when I was like 7 years old, you know, and they used to let us run riot in their coffee shop, or it wasn't a coffee shop at the time. They had their surf rental place, and they used to let kids, you know, who were into the surfing community run around. And so we were like, okay, they're a natural partner who we want to be with and, you know, take our community runs from. Number one, because they're in a great location and they have great coffee and food, but also just because they have that organic story, which we think we kind of match up really well with. So we approach partnerships in, are they a local business? Would we want to support them? Are they sharing the same values as us? Do they just want to get people into fitness? And then 3, can they help us kind of create a cool event or a concept? So those 3 things come together, and we're lucky to have partnered with, you know, Gym Skin, Be Fit, Innermost Nutrition, On Running. There's some cool stuff coming in the pipeline, by the way. Can't say it, but it'll be happening soon. But like with some great brands, you know, and Surf House Dubai, Single Fin, great brand as well.
I think that's incredible, and I feel like
Runners Tribe. I feel like I've forgotten them, but Runners Tribe is a perfect example of this. Yeah. It's a homegrown business. They you know, it's a kind of one-man show. He was so dedicated to our community. Yes. Skiro, so shout out Skiro, because he was just like, all he wanted to do when we had those initial conversations was, I want to help you guys grow, and I want to do it organically and support the community. And like when people approach a conversation like that, for us, it's music to our ears, you know, that's really natural, organic. And I think that's important.
And I think that's what's allowed you guys to grow so organically. You know, it's you guys, and I feel like it's just in the vibe of Jumeirah Johns. And I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. Is, you know, you're all about giving value the whole time. You're wanting to help. You know, you're not wanting anything in return, but naturally by you providing value, you giving, it's opening up doors of opportunity. And I think that goes into so many different, you know, no matter what industry you're in, give as much value as possible. Yeah. Don't be that business. Don't be that kind of person that's always want to expect. That's naturally part of the parcel. It will come. Yeah. But if you just continue to give value, do your best to sort of help, you know, it really, really allows you to sort of like open doors and sort of grow from there.
100%. I think like stuff like this that you're doing and the content that you put out is naturally that, like you're delivering educational pieces, value for free. People might find an association with that and then are more likely to come back to you. So it is a give and take of like, you know, we obviously want to give value and that's all we really do, but it will come back. And it is coming back to us because we have, in my opinion, arguably the best running community in Dubai.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, and we get a whole lot of it. Even if not from like commercial value or monetary value, like I said before, maybe 3-4 people a month come up to me and say, "Hey man, I hated running," or "I've never run before," and like you've just helped me get through that, you know. And that's something that I can't put a value on, if I'm being honest. Like that's sick. That's way more than anything I could have imagined when we started this community. Like that's sweet.
Amazing. And I guess that's in terms of, I guess, Jumeirah Johns, is that what you sort of eventually were hoping to kind of be sort of a full-time gig? You know, assume sort of now, what exactly is it that you do full-time? And how do you even actually manage to, this isn't your full-time gig, but it's a lot of work that goes into it. I mean, you're doing frequent runs during the week, you know, you dealing with different collaborative partners, you're looking at scaling, growing, moving to different areas, yet you've still got a full-time job. How do you manage everything?
Yeah, mate, it's busy, but like one of the things that we did early on is we built a really great team within Jumeirah Johns of like really selfless volunteers who help us run the club from a day-to-day basis, whether that's on actually taking the run. So we have great run club leaders who are the real, like, to be quite honest, without them, the club would not be where it is because they allowed us to offer various runs in various locations at various timings to tap into various markets within Dubai, right? So these guys get up week in, week out. We don't pay them, you know, and they're doing it because they love either the community or they love taking the run. So they're phenomenal. So shout out to all the run club leaders. Like, can't thank them enough. They're the real reason this club's grown. But then on top of that, like you say, life gets busy, but it's fun. This is a really fun thing to do outside of work. I have a great job, which I love. Like I work in a commercial advisory business for the sport and entertainment industry. Okay. And Ryan is a pilot, Kay's a teacher. Like, you know, we all have full-time jobs. This is, of course, a side gig, but it's super fun and it gives you that avenue to be creative, to develop a brand that you're really proud of, you know, a personal brand that you have a connection with. And like, I love that. I used to work in marketing. I worked for an ad agency before. Yeah. And like, I love the concept of developing a brand from scratch and like kind of like getting, you know, eyeballs on it. All of that kind of gives me thrills. So it allows me to feel that creative edge as well as working my job, which I love too. So yeah, it's best of both worlds.
And I think we resonate well with on that point, because there's actually nothing more satisfying than taking this idea and having a vision for something and then being able to step by step build it into something like tangible. I don't know. It just gets me super excited. It's something that gets me up every day, and that's the sort of the thrill of sort of entrepreneurship and creativity. It really, really allows you to do that. Now, you mentioned a point about how you guys manage to manage the community as you have your team, your kind of your leads.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's awesome, because delegation is key in any business that's growing, right? So can you tell me a little bit more sort of about your kind of like team sort of lead structure? How many are there? What are kind of their roles and responsibilities within your community? Obviously, they're not getting paid for doing it. It's purely so, how do you also even keep them motivated and sort of incentivized to fulfill those roles?
Yeah, I mean, it's so number one, we kind of selected people who we thought within the community, or asked them. We didn't select them. We said, hey, would you like to be a run club leader for us?
Okay.
Based on the fact that were they kind of embodying the right spirit of Jumeirah Johns? Like, were you super approachable? Were you chatty? Did you have some kind of running experience? Were you someone that if I were new to a run club and I was kind of stood there on my own, would that person go over and say, hey, how's it going? Like, nice to meet you, So those are the kind of people we wanted. We didn't really want the per se elite runners, because they can sometimes, not be the most friendly people or whatever. We just wanted the people who are the best vibes, because that's what we want. When someone goes to a run, we want them to feel welcome and friendly and, within the right community. So that's how we selected them. And naturally, this changes over time. I say, it's a volunteer network. People get busy with work. People get sick of it 100%. So we had to be pretty flexible, and we're having to do that right now. And we're kind of as we're planning to grow into next winter, we're looking at getting new run club leaders on, because we want to expand into new areas. Other people have wanted to go elsewhere for other commitments and opportunities. Yeah. And that's completely understandable, because this isn't a job for them, Mm-hmm. And so as long as they're doing the absolute best that they can and giving it what they can when they want to do it, that's all we can really ask of someone, because it's volunteer led. If I have these unreal high expectations on what someone needs to do, then naturally it's going to be difficult for them to do that, because, they're just doing it for fun. And that's what it should be at the end of the day.
And naturally they're passionate about it. They're involved in it. So why not kind of be a part of that growth, and at least it allows them to take a look back and be like, cool, I was also part of that growth of Jumeirah Johns. There's a little bit of me in Jumeirah Johns.
Yeah. And I can't echo that enough. Without the people who take the runs for us on a week in, week out basis, the club would be nowhere near. It probably wouldn't exist, to be quite honest. So can't thank them enough. They've absolutely helped us get to where we are now, and I'm extremely grateful.
What areas do you guys work in, operate in? If I'm looking to sort of join your guys' community, where do I go? What times? What days?
Yeah. So at the minute it's summer, so we're going to be taking it off. But usually we'd run Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Monday evenings, Wednesday mornings, which is a coach session. So we have free coaching as well. You can come down and get an interval session if you're looking to run your first 5K, improve your 5K time, improve your 10K time. We have those sessions every Wednesday morning. And then
what time?
Wednesday morning, 6 a.m.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And Friday morning, 6:15. And then Monday evenings is around 7 p.m. So that'll kick off in the winter again.
All in the same spot?
No, so we do one Monday run in the marina,
yep.
One in the Meadows Village, which is kind of Emirates living area down there.
Nice.
And then we're looking to expand into downtown, so somewhere around the Canal Business Bay area coming into the new season. But the timeline is subject to change, but at the minute, that's what we're running. And then in the past, we've done the Sunday long run with Jumeirah, which is on a Sunday. It's an hour and a half run, so those who want to get in there, longer stuff. But yeah, looking to go into the new kind of season when winter rolls around, we'll be looking to change that around a little bit. But the basis of it is that it's always somewhere pretty near you. We've talked about it before. Everywhere is 20 minutes away in Dubai. It seems to be that way. So
exactly.
Yeah, you can get down, run along one of the most pristine running tracks on the beach in the morning with a group of 50 like-minded individuals. Go and get a 10 out of 10 coffee afterwards, shower, be in work 30 minutes early if you really wanted to be. I can't start the day better, honestly.
No, definitely. It literally is the best start to the day. I think the runner's high.
Yeah.
There's nothing that sort of sets your day off quite like, that feeling that you get after running. And it was actually quite funny. My business partner, he's a swimmer. he's no land mammal, and he was always quite resistant to running. And most recently, he's just been running on the treadmill. And it was actually funny the other day. He messaged me and he's like, "Oh, like I love it. I love the feeling." And I was like, "Well, maybe we're gonna turn you into a runner." And he's like, "You never know." And he's the last person on earth that I thought would be someone that could get into running. And it just shows you that it's there for anybody. You don't need to be a high level athlete. You can never have run before, but there is no feeling like the feeling you get when you're done running.
100%. And I completely have the same mindset that with their business partner. Like I went the same way. I hated running. Like when I think of running, I think of running the bleep test at rugby, doing fitness intervals and all that kind of stuff. Or anytime I'd go out for a 5K, I'd be like max heart rate, trying to hold this on, redlining the whole way. And I'd finish the run and be like, why do people do this? Like, I can't understand the runner's high. But then slowly you understand it, it turns, and then, it just works its way into your lifestyle, which is cool. Yeah.
So do you have any sort of marathons, half marathons sort of coming up even for yourself, or that you know that are sort of in the pipeline, that maybe someone it's always nice to kind of have that goal that they can come down, let's say twice a week, and at least they can sort of prep for something? Are there sort of any half marathons you'd recommend, marathons to give people a chance to sort of work towards?
Mate, there are loads in the Middle East, which is class. So we're going to be doing a big push towards the Burj to Burj half marathon. Yes. I think it's like, Warwick has done so well with that to kind of transform the running scene. You're running into a big like garden and everything. And it's just a cool event. So I think big push towards Burj to Burj. We're going to be doing a training program towards that. We're going to go down en masse as a squad. We did it last year. It was awesome. Loads of people hit PBs. Loads of people ran their first half. But then, we'll work towards every race in Dubai. But Burj to Burj, if you've not run before and you're looking to do a half marathon, which a lot of people have as their kind of goal, recommend that one for sure.
And if I want to get sort of coaching, you sort of mentioned sort of programs, stuff like that. Yeah. Who would I speak to? Do you guys offer that?
Yeah.
How would that work?
So Blair is one of our run coaches, our run leaders, who comes down on a Wednesday and alongside Ed, who also runs a session with him, and they take you through a fully coached session. Blair works at Spirit Level, which is a High Rocks hybrid facing gym, and he does run coaching for them as well. So if you wanted to go run coaching, I'd recommend you go to Blair. He's a phenomenal run coach. I'm getting programmed by him right now. I'm working towards my first High Rocks. Just started, so that's next on the cards for me. But he's a great coach. He's like super approachable. You'll get these coach sessions free on a Wednesday morning, like I say, but go and ask him a ton of questions. He loves it. Like, he'll talk your ear off about running, and he'll tell you the best way to get involved with it. Yeah.
So I guess High Rocks, it's probably the most talked about, newly sort of introduced hybrid fitness community, right? Now, why High Rocks for you? I mean, I did my first one in Doha a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
Why High Rocks?
Mate, to be completely honest, like, I seem to have caught the bug. Like, I haven't really lifted weights in a long time consistently. I went in, did a High Rocks class. I was like, God, that's fun. Like, I get to lift weights because that's something I did playing rugby all the time. Like, I really enjoyed it, but it's lifting weights in a different fashion,
Yes.
Mate, just, there's a bit of a buzz around it. I fancy giving it a shot. It's nothing more than that. And then also I went to one of these classes at Spirit Level, who we're partnered with at the minute, and like just had such a fun time. It's nothing more, like, it's as simple as that. It's fun. It gets you healthy. You get to lift some weights, do a bit of running. It's good fun.
And it's nice. It's not too technical.
Yeah.
So it allows like you said, removes the barriers to entry.
Yeah.
Right. CrossFit, it's super technical, injury prone, whereas High Rocks, it allows, anyone that's, okay, cool, let's say you are into your running, but it's like, okay, maybe I do want to kind of focus on a bit of weight training.
Yeah.
It allows you to sort of do both of those things.
100%. I think it's the main reason that High Rocks has exploded, is because you're taking that functional fitness element, you're removing all the complex movements, the ollie lifts, the kind of, whatever gymnastic stuff that you do with CrossFit, and you're making it accessible for more people. That's why it's blown up. It's still competitive fitness, right? Adult PE, whatever you want to call it, but it's just more accessible for the masses. And that's why I think it's successful, yeah.
And is Jumeirah Johns just always going to kind of be running, or branching into, because fitness is it's very broad, right?
Yeah.
Now you guys are in with the running niche. Are you guys looking at sort of going to be expanding that or not?
If you look at like what we've done already, we do running that's our main thing. We go week in, week out. We have run clubs. But outside of that, we've partnered with loads of people to bring you like a variety of wellness activities. So although we're labeled as a run club, I'd actually think we're a bit more of a wellness community. Not many people in the club are pure in and out runners. They like to have a foot in every kind of like wellness aspect, right? So we've partnered with Heel Hub before, and we've done ice baths and saunas over there. We've run a paddle tournament, we've done a variety of things. We've partnered with tons of different gyms. The Platform Studios had classes with them. Spirit Level, more recently, we have an ongoing class. So with all these kind of various partnerships, I think we have quite a good and strong foundation to call ourselves a wellness community. And that's the direction that it's going to go in. It'll be running first and foremost, but you can get involved with a ton of things when you join Jumeirah Johns, particularly over this next season. There's going to be loads of opportunities for you to try or dive into various elements of fitness and wellness. And yeah.
And how you within your community, right? Do you just manage everything from WhatsApp, or are there any sort of other community pieces of tech or stuff that you guys use in order to sort of help manage it, or is it everything kind of just on WhatsApp?
Yeah, so predominantly WhatsApp is just the easiest form of communication, right? Particularly in the region, people love WhatsApp. Everything goes up on Instagram as well. We've also partnered with Core Direction, who have it on their platform as well. So if you're a member of the Core Direction kind of, community as well, they have their own community. You can access all of our offerings and whatever you get through there. So there's 3 pillars to it, WhatsApp being the main one, just because it's easy and don't fix it if it's not broken, I think, It gets annoying, but you can mute your chat if you really want, that's where all our comms come through.
Yeah, it's amazing how in this region, how WhatsApp is literally, it's everything.
Yeah.
Even in sort of the real estate game, it's like no one checks emails out here. Everything's WhatsApp orientated. I mean, even when you call in someone, you can't even leave a voice message.
I know, yeah. It's everyone's on the voice notes walking around doing it, yeah. But like for that reason, it works, We also have a website coming on the way, so that'll have all the information alongside if you want to purchase merch and sign up for different events and stuff. That'll all be via there. So maybe we'll make the transformation into the website, but again, if it'll all be on WhatsApp too, because people use it most, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Well, listen, awesome. It's been a great chat, but I got one question for you. Obviously, this is Escaping Normal's debut podcast. Now, what does the name Escaping Normal mean to you? When you hear Escaping Normal, what does that mean to you?
Escaping normal means breaking any kind of boundary for yourself, right? I would say. Personal boundaries, right? I think with anything new that you're stepping into, whether that be in business, fitness, even just going to a new environment like a new coffee shop, there might even be like a little bit of nerves there. Overcoming that nerve, taking a step into the unknown and trying to progress forward into that kind of unknown as well. So yeah, just breaking a bit of boundaries, which is good.
Lovely. Angus, it was an absolute pleasure having this conversation with you. I can't wait for the summer to be over so I can get down, get joining your guys' community again. Such an awesome conversation. Thank you so much for your time. And I can't wait to be part of that journey and to watch where Jumeirah Johns goes in the future.
Mate, very excited. Thanks so much for having me. Cheers.
Thank you, buddy.
Cheers.